Welcome back to the Get Off the Treadmill podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs, where we show you how to build a successful business and to have a life too. We're going to dive into another topic that helps us make more money in less time and to get off the treadmill so we can experience a life of significance. And now, your host and the author of the #1 best-selling business book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, Chuck Blakeman.
Hi, this is Chuck Blakeman, and welcome back to the Get Off the Treadmill podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the roller coaster treadmill of business, what 30 years of business usually looks like, and how to get a different result. This illustration, the roller coaster treadmill illustration, shows 30 years of business in a wavy line. And it's one of my favorite business illustrations because even I can draw it. I just fell into it one day a few years ago in a discussion group with business owners around why business seems so cyclical. Responding to questions in that workshop, this illustration emerged. It was a simple line drawing, but as with so many things, the simplest things are usually the most profound. So let's jump in. First, let's look at what 30 years of business sadly looks like most of the time. If you're listening and not watching the video, it's a simple illustration to explain. It's just a wavy line, kind of like a sine wave from left to right with regular peaks and valleys. It's a lousy roller coaster because it repeats the same peaks and valleys over and over without much variation. And for our purposes, we're going to say that this wavy line represents 30 years of doing business. In this illustration, the peaks and valleys aren't good or bad. They simply represent too much of something or too little of something. So the roller coaster treadmill can be read a dozen ways. The first valley could be that you have no clients, so you crank it up. And the first peak after that might be that you oversold your capacity right out of the gate. And all of a sudden you have too many clients. Then the valley beside that is that you don't have enough production capacity for all the new clients. So you ramp that up. And the next peak is that you have too much production capacity, either too many staff or too much machinery. And you overcorrect again, so you're back to not having enough production capacity. And then you crank it all up and it's working great. And now you have too much money and the tax man wants to take it all from you. And to solve that, you buy too much inventory or you buy a building to get rid of the cash. But clients aren't paying on time and you don't have enough cash on hand to get through the next payroll. So you go get a loan and now you have too much debt. And then a recession hits and you don't have enough clients again. So you ramp up sales and overshoot your capacity again. So you shut a lot of it down and then the economy comes roaring back and you're caught flat-footed and don't have enough production capacity again. And at the end of 30 years, you're literally sick and literally tired and you want to sell it all and get the heck out. But of course, you don't have enough profit. So there's another valley. So you don't take salary or distributions for a year so that the business looks like it's worth more. So you can sell this job to some fool who will ride the same dumb roller coaster for another 30 years. Welcome to business. Isn't this fun? And by the way, who made this happen? Who made these rules? I did. I designed a world for myself that required that I live reactively for 30 years by just working really hard and hoping something good would happen, but never really believing I could make it happen. Looking at the roller coaster treadmill, is it any wonder we're tired? Well, business doesn't actually have to be tiring. I've said this before. It can be fun, rewarding, fulfilling, meaningful, and enjoyable. We don't have to live reactively to the roller coaster treadmill our whole business lives. Even though this is what most businesses experience, it doesn't have to look like this. We can do 30 years of business very differently and get off this treadmill early on, even in our 30s or 40s, or a few years from whenever you first hear this, once and for all. Let's get off that treadmill. Let's figure it out. Let's look at the second wavy line illustration that shows what business could look like for 30 years. A roller coaster always ends up at the same altitude it started. But this second illustration isn't a roller coaster treadmill going up and down for 30 years and ending up just as busy as you were the day you started your business. This illustration is still a wavy line because nothing in life is a straight line, but it is radically different in one way. It goes up gradually and relentlessly over time and ends up in a very different place, a much better place 30 years from now, and even 5 years from now. And the overriding theme of this second illustration is that life and business are not happening to the person experiencing this wavy line, because that owner is proactively taking charge. We're on the roller coaster treadmill for one simple reason. We are reacting to the world around us instead of deciding what we want and proactively going after it. The first illustration has the world around us in charge, but the second illustration says, I'm in charge. I know what I want, and I am proactively pursuing that until I get it. The world around me will not dictate the terms. I am not a hostage to my business or a victim waiting for the world to knock me down again. We have a training facility in Denver that seats about 75 people, and splashed across the top of the front above a row of giant whiteboards in 18-inch letters is the saying, make your own business rules. Why? Simple, because she or he who makes the rules wins. If I'm letting the world around me make the rules, who do you think wins? The world around me. If I'm making my own rules, who do you think wins? I do. We need to take charge of our business lives, make our own business rules, and win at the biggest game in business, creating freedom in our business so that I can make more money in less time, get off the treadmill, and get back to the passion that brought me into business in the first place. I need to take charge. Great, fine, wonderful, but how do you take charge when it's so average to just react? The roller coaster treadmill way of doing business is definitely average, meaning that it seems like just about everybody is doing it. But I would suggest, while it may be average, it's not normal for us to live reactively to the world around us. Let's not be average. Let's be normal. And normal means being proactive and taking charge of your life and your business. And when we do, 30 years of business looks very different. The next thing we'll talk about is the most important thing to understand from both the first and second illustrations. Let's overlay the two graphs to show how two business owners can start out the same and end up in very different places. These two illustrations are like a fork in the road. The first graph shows someone who's making most of the decisions reactively as a victim. And the most important thing to see here, they are making decisions reactively based on short-term gain, always reacting to what we call the tyranny of the urgent. We're all still hunting mastodons in our head and always default to what might keep us alive one more day. The second graph shows someone who's making decisions based on the long term, on what will be best for them and their businesses years from now, even if it hurts right now. They are taking charge and making proactive, long-term decisions. As a result, they are a thriving victor, not a surviving victim. And most importantly, they are making their decisions based on what is best for them in the long term. In my first business, I was doing all the work myself. And that seemed to make sense, at least in the short term. I didn't have to hire anybody, didn't train anybody, didn't have to talk to anybody, didn't have to deal with conflict, mess around with building systems or processes, or lay people off. But that only worked in the short term. I couldn't take a day off without losing money. And vacation was something I went on with my family while they had fun, and I continued to work. And I could only make so much money because I only had 168 hours a week, and I'd use that all up dealing with the tyranny of the urgent. I was making all my decisions in the short term by only answering the question, how do I pay my bills this month? I needed to get to where I could ask, how do I build a business that pays the bills when I'm not here? That's the magic question in business, and was the big mindset shift that took me from being an income producer, masquerading as a business owner, to becoming a real business owner who owned a business, not a job. In an earlier podcast, we talked about the tyranny of the urgent versus the priority of the important, which describes two opposing workforces we're faced with every morning when we get out of bed. The roller coaster treadmill illustration shows someone living reactively to the tyranny of the urgent. And the second illustration shows someone living proactively and focused on the priority of the important, which is the only way to solve the tyrannical stuff permanently. So it begs the question, how do I make decisions? Do I make them based on the short term or on the long term? How do you make decisions? Based on the short term or on the long term? The second illustration starts with the phrase, see your future clearly. What do I want 10 years from now? If that's what my future looks like, then where should I be 5 years from now? And 3 years from now? And to get there 3 years from now, where should I be in the next 12 months? And then what needs to happen in the next 3 months to get that 12-month goal? And if I have a 3-month goal, then what do I do this month, this week, and today? If we see our futures clearly first, we end up using today differently. We make decisions based on the long term, where we want to be 10 years from now or longer. But if we start with a reactive view of business, I need to pay my mortgage this month, we will never get off the treadmill of reacting to what we need to in order to survive this month. We'll be on that roller coaster treadmill for the whole 30 years. Stephen Covey famously said, start with the end in mind. It was one of his 7 habits of highly successful people. He had quoted me in his final book, and I was just getting to know him before a tragic bicycle accident took his life. From what little I knew, he seemed to be someone who lived out the things he wrote, and the things he wrote came from his life. Start with the end in mind is one of those profound, simple things that should guide us every day. We need to see our future clearly. and then use today to build tomorrow. We shouldn't live in the future, but know that every day is precious, which can motivate us to live fully present every day. And what does that mean, to live fully present every day? Is it all about just today? Not at all. Being fully present means we build a great life by stacking one day on top of another, knowing that today was lived with the long view in mind. Living in the present never ignores that we are building a long life. If each day is about being fully present to make bricks, we don't just make a few bricks every day and then toss them aside, and tomorrow we make another few and trash them as well. That is not being fully present. That is living without purpose. We make bricks not because today is the only day and we should live each day to its fullest. We make bricks today because we are building a wall, but not just a wall, which just might take a few months, but because we are building a cathedral with our lives, which will take years. We should always use today to build tomorrow. Being fully present is to know that I lived today to its fullest as one small brick in the cathedral of my life. No random bricks, no random days. The following is something that has only become clear to me in the last couple of decades, even though it has been obvious and in my face much longer than that. And it is this: people who make their daily decisions based on short-term gain will almost always remain hostages to their businesses and rarely taste true wealth, which is the combination of time plus money. But people who make their daily decisions based on the long term will eventually, if not quickly, almost always find freedom and wealth that only the combination of time and money can get us. They will find freedom in their business, not needing to have freedom from it. What if we build a business that gave us freedom? That's the business everybody wants to buy and a business you will never want to sell. My Irish friend John Heenan asked me this great question a few years ago. Chuck, are you making decisions based on where you are or on where you want to be? It's another one of those simple, profound questions. If you make decisions based on where you are, where do you think you'll be next year? Welcome to the 30-year treadmill. But if you're making decisions on where you want to be, you will end up in a very different place. So let's start with the end in mind. So let's overlay the first illustration, the roller coaster treadmill, with the second one, what a business should look like for 30 years. And as we overlay them, you will see two very different 30-year journeys. We see how making decisions based on short-term gain causes us to end up where we started, just like every other roller coaster. We never went up at all. We just went up and down and up and down. And then we see that when we start with see your future clearly, that instead of ending up as a hostage to your business after 30 years, you end up with true freedom in your business much sooner than 30 years. I've seen plenty of business owners move from hostage to freedom in a year or two. And 5 years is the longest I've ever seen it take with people who are being intentional and making decisions based on the long term to build their own personal cathedral of a life. But if you look closely at the beginning years of these two illustrations, you see something very important. Both business owners experience the same nonsense in these early years, the same issues and the same hardships: not enough money, too many clients, not enough clients, too much production, a bad economy, a great economy. Neither one of these people are getting a break, nor is either one any luckier or any smarter than the other. Business owners who achieve freedom in their business don't get a pass. As they face the very same trials and tribulations as anyone else will, they do one thing differently. They make today's decisions based on what will be best for them and their business in the long term. That's the singular difference between those who get off the treadmill and those who don't. When we react to the present, we mortgage our futures. When we are proactive about using every day to create our long-term future, we are motivated to use the same opportunities and obstacles everyone faces to build our cathedral instead of just make bricks and survive the next month. So are you treadmill guy or are you freedom woman? While treadmill guy is worrying about tactical things like, I've got a mortgage to pay, freedom woman is already thinking strategically about what she is creating in the long term. Treadmill guy is focused on the tyranny of the urgent, while freedom woman focuses on the priority of the important, like figuring out from the start how to build a business that makes money when she's not there. Treadmill guy is reactive and employs the random hope strategy of business. I'm going to work really hard and I hope it all works out. And freedom woman believes she can make the rules and actually build her future, and plans very intentionally to use her business to live out her ideal lifestyle. Sadly, treadmill guy's focus on short-term gain has him seeing expenses, while freedom woman is seeing investments. The result? Treadmill guy is busy for 30 years making money, surviving, and repeating the same exhausting activities for decades on the way to retirement, while Freedom Woman is living a life of significance and wealth on the way to freedom. So I'll ask John Heenan's question again, because it's a question that will lead us to vastly different outcomes. Are you making decisions based on where you are or on where you want to be? How you answer this is the first step in determining which journey you'll take, the hostage journey or the freedom journey. As I've said before, our expectations for our business should be no less than those for our kids. If we don't expect our business to grow up, we're still going to be changing its diapers 30 years after we started. Remember, riches equal money, but wealth equals the freedom and the ability to choose what to do with your time and your money. Do you want to be a wealthy person who owns a business that makes money while you are elsewhere doing what you want? It's not rocket science. Throughout these podcasts, you will discover that building a mature business which gives you freedom to enjoy life is not a matter of luck or talent in any way, but simple, focused intentionality. Remember, you get what you intend, not what you hope for. So are you in? Will you join me in building a mature business that creates both time and money? Does moving from survival through success right to a significant life sound motivating? Let's figure it out. Let's figure out what it takes to get off the roller coaster treadmill. See your future clearly, take charge, and fully intend to build a mature business you can enjoy for decades to come. Keep going.
That wraps up another episode of the Get Off the Treadmill podcast. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and hit the like button to ensure you are receiving the latest tools you need to grow your business and to get off the treadmill. If you want more information on the 3 to 5 Club, the Crankset Group, or to book Chuck as a business advisor, speaker, or workshop leader, you can contact us at grow@cranksetgroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.